Boo, hello there. This is different. This is a talking head video now, I guess. So recently, if you're anything like me, you've probably been playing Monster Hunter Wilds, which just came out a couple days ago as of me recording this, and it's pretty much exactly what I was hoping for out of a new Monster Hunter game. It's basically just World, but more, and that's exactly what I wanted. As of me recording this, I'm just getting into high rank finally and starting to get into some of the harder fights, which is really fun because the main story is good, but it's really easy if you kind of know what you're doing. Now, it's not necessarily what I wanted to talk about today though, because I actually wanted to levy a couple of my critiques that I have of the game, and specifically about the intro to the game, the early segments that I feel like a lot of people are having trouble with right now. Obviously, number one, the elephant in the room is the game's performance, especially on PC, but even on consoles to a certain extent. The game, in my opinion, doesn't really look good enough visually to demand the kind of hardware that it does. Like, without any kind of frame gen or upscaling technology, which is basically required to play this game to certain extents, it's a pretty rough experience. Like, even myself, I'm running a 7900 XT. That's a basically 3090 equivalent card on AMD's end, and when I don't have frame generation turned on at 1440p medium high settings, my game runs at sub 60 frame rates, which is embarrassing for like a $600 to $700 card from what, 2 years ago? That's pretty rough, and honestly I have it pretty good because I can turn on frame generation and get decently playable frame rates, and the frame gen is actually pretty good. I haven't had any crazy artifacting or any issues with it, but the problem is for people that don't have good hardware like myself and my friends that are playing, then it becomes an issue because now all of a sudden you're not using frame gen to get better than 60, you're using frame gen to even get 60, and that can become an issue very quickly because it invites a lot of things like, you know, input latency and more artifacting, and it's just not looking as smooth. But generally speaking, all I'm saying here is that the performance is less than ideal. But the reason I bring that up is because I think it worsens the point I'm getting into today, which is the actual early game of Monster Hunter Wilds, which is, in my opinion, the worst part of the entire game is the intro section. Number one, because of what I think is the worst zone, or worst starting zone they could have picked, which is the desert. Especially in the beginning, because what unfortunately happens is, and this happened in my experience too, is you go into the game with already kind of middling performance, and now you're dropped into an area of the map that is the least visually interesting in the entire game, and for the first few missions, it has like a washed out gray sandy filter over the whole thing, which just makes the game look even worse than it kind of already does. It does get better, as you can tell by, you know, like the image I have back here. The desert does brighten up and saturate quite a bit after a certain point in the story that I won't talk about, but it really doesn't look good at the beginning. It looks really dull and underwhelming. Now, that obviously is fixed, but it's a bad first impression that the game lays down, and that's just kind of unfortunate to see. My second critique is the characters. I like the new handler, I like the new Smithy. I want to talk about the kid, because of course I want to talk about the kid. Everyone is kind of dogging on him, and I don't have a problem with him, because he does end up being important to the plot later on. But again, notice my wording of later on. At the beginning of the game, he doesn't need to exist. I feel like most of the early story could have happened without him being there. Like, he kind of just shows up and complains about the monster that attacked him for a good couple hours worth of the story until you really get to his village area, and then his story arc really happens. But it isn't until then that he becomes useful, or not useful, but I guess interesting. And it just, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way when I first started it, and it rubbed a couple of my friends the wrong way that I was talking to as well, just because he seems unimportant, and kind of that he just steals some of the spotlight away from your main hunter, who, by the way, is finally voiced for the first time in a Monster Hunter game, and then immediately sidetracked because, hey, there's this new character, you gotta care about him, except that I didn't care about him until about halfway through the game. So, anyways, these are all very small little nitpicky type things that really aren't that important, but as I play more of the game, I will probably come with a video more full review in the future. But these were kind of my, okay, I got through the main story, the game is really good, but man, it starts off on a bad footing, because I feel like it is very off-putting to people when they are put into a game that performs badly, looks bad, in the beginning at least, and has uninteresting characters, also only in the beginning. The problem is it gets better, and I hate saying that because then I sound like some chronically online MMO player who's like, oh guys, it gets better after 1,000 hours, but no, seriously, it does. It gets better after about 5 hours, in this case, 5 to 10, I would say. And I do feel for the people that are struggling with performance issues, because that's just something you really can't fix unless Capcom is able to fix something on their end that makes the game perform better. But the game really does get better, and I love it. I'm having a great time with it so far. So again, just some nitpicky thoughts for you today. If you are struggling with the beginning of the game, please push through. I promise it will be so worth it, because this game is very good, on par with World, I would say. And this is only the beginning, so we have so much more probably in store. So anyways, thanks for listening to me real quick. Do you guys agree with my point? Did you run into any of these same issues as me? Have you been having performance issues? Let me know if you care, and keep an eye out. I will probably be doing more videos on this game, because this is going to take a lot of my time, I can tell. So anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.